Hello and welcome to our next roundtable, Building and Keeping a Stellar Pet Care Team with Joe Latona and Carolina Carver. Joe is the founder and general manager of WalkerScout. If you haven't heard of WalkerScout before, check them out. Joe is fabulous and easy to work with, and he'll be able to help you with all of your recruiting needs. WalkerScout has performed thousands of interviews, they've helped hire hundreds of pet care professionals, and they've helped generate millions of dollars of revenue for their clients. Joe has been awesome in helping other pet care businesses grow their team. So if you're looking to grow your business and don't know where to start, Joe will be an excellent resource and guide for you. We first connected with Joe a few years back at the NAPS conference, and we're really excited to have him join us today. We're also joined by Carolina Carver. Carolina is the owner and founder of Tails and Trails. They're a franchise pet care business founded back in 2015. Tails and Trails has 3 locations in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and in Wisconsin. Carolina joins us as the pet care professional on today's roundtable to share her experiences with hiring within the pet care industry. We're super grateful to have both of these amazing folks join us and to have you join us as well. Building and growing your pet care team is no small feat. We're excited to talk about the current landscape and challenges unique to the pet care industry. Whether you're joining us live or if you're watching the recording, we're super excited to dive in, and make sure you stick around to the end. We have a couple questions that we're going to answer for you. Thanks for joining us. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our roundtable, Building and Keeping a Stellar Pet Care Team. I'm Nicole at Pet Pocketbook, and I'm joined here by Joe at WalkerScout and Carolina Oakley from Tails and Trails. We're super excited to have you today. Joe, you look like you have a friend joining us as well. I love it. It's right on theme here.
This is Miss Kitty. She's always slithering about. So
Welcome, Miss Kitty. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining. A couple housekeeping before we begin here. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit them to the chat in the Zoom window. There's a little chat, so feel free to use that. And you can submit your questions for Joe and Carolina, and I will help field those questions as we're going about. If you're not asking any questions, if you could please mute yourself, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, I'm really excited to kick things off with you. Today, we'll be talking about building and keeping a stellar pet care team. It is a topic that a bunch of you struggle with as a pet care business owner. It can be really hard to find that perfect team and keep them happy and engaged and wanting to stay and grow with your team. So today, both Carolina and Joe will be weighing in, and I'm excited to have them join us. So thank you both for joining us, and let's kick things off.
yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, so let's talk through our agenda a little bit. First, we're going to formally introduce to everyone the current landscape and challenges within the pet care industry. We'll talk through that a little bit more. And again, if you do have questions, please submit them in the chat. We'll also talk about attracting top clients, top talent, and recruitment strategies. Joe is the expert there, so I'm super excited to learn from him today. And then last but not least, nurturing your team. So talking a little bit more about retention and growth, how you can keep employees on long term and keep them kind of engaged and growing within your business. Again, I am Nicole from Pet Pocketbook. This is my 3rd+ year with Pet Pocketbook, so I'm really happy to be doing these roundtables with you all. It's a really fun and engaging way to get to know the community better and also to kind of just spread the wealth of knowledge. Carolina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Sorry. Yes. Hi there, all. I am Carolina Carver. I own Tails and Trails. We're a pet service business, a dog walking business, but we're a bit more specialized. We specialize in adventure daycare and off-leash hikes. What makes us different from, your typical like doggy daycare or dog walking service is that we're not a facility. Everything we do is outdoors. And we're not just like a typical dog walking service. We offer, we kind of specialize on doing like more hikes, wooded hikes, and then offering training for proper recall so the dogs can participate more in like the off-leash aspect of being outside, so they can get a little bit more out of the dog walking experience. It's a bit more, more enrichment for that. We have 3 locations currently. We have our one in Rhode Island, which is all of Rhode Island, and then surrounding Rhode Island, so like outskirts, Massachusetts and Connecticut. And then we have one for Southeast Wisconsin and Worcester County. And we recently just started franchising, so we're opening more throughout the country soon. So yeah, that's Tails and Trails.
That's very exciting. I'm really excited that you're able to continue to grow with Tails and Trails. It's been really cool to see you
Me
guys
too,
grow over
yeah.
the years.
I'm really excited to see more locations open up.
Um,
Awesome.
I can't follow that up. That's such a great story that you guys are franchising. That's so
Thank
cool.
you.
Um, I'm Joe. I'm from WalkerScout. I've been in the industry now since 2008, and in 2019, I started WalkerScout. The thought here is it's a recruitment processing outsourcer for the pet care industry. So we help our clients with sourcing candidates, reviewing applications, conducting interviews, checking references, checking work history, and ultimately, I think our goal is to help our clients save a lot of time and give them more options to choose from with their next hire. So typically our clients are dog walking businesses, pet sitting businesses. We work with a lot of dog daycares, and ultimately they usually fall into a group of people that don't have time to recruit or simply don't want to recruit anymore. So that's what we're here for in the industry, and we enjoy our work.
I first met Joe at the NAPS conference, I think 3 years ago at this point. And I was just super impressed by him and just what he brings to the industry as a whole. There was definitely a need for his types of services. And when you talk about things that that business owners in general, specifically pet care owners, don't have, it's time. So Joe can find you quality candidates and save you a bunch of time that you can reinvest in your business elsewhere. And also, he's just one of the nicest people I know. So, really excited to have you here, Joe.
That's very kind of you to say, Nicole. Thank you.
All right, bear with me as I'm driving the slides here. All right, let's see if I can launch my Zoom polls. Bear with me. I'm new to the Zoom polls. All right, I'm going to start by asking Carolina. Carolina, on a scale of 1 to 5, how hard is it to recruit staff?
It's not hard to find people that are interested in being dog walkers. I get a lot of inquiries when I put an ad up to hire a new dog walker for an area. So, but finding someone who actually has the skill set that you're like is experienced, because most people will say they have experience walking a dog because they own a dog, but it's a I don't know. For me, I would say obviously it's a little bit, we want someone with a bit more experience than that. So it's yes, short answer, I would say on a scale of 1 to 5, I would say, is 1 the hardest or is 5 the hardest?
5's the hardest, 1's the
5.
easiest.
Okay. 3.5.
Okay. My Zoom polls don't seem to be launching, so I apologize for that, everyone. Could you put in the chat what you would rate 1 to 5? 1 being the easiest, 5 being the hardest.
Sorry, are you saying to answer it in the chat?
Anyone else who's attending
Oh,
and can put in the chat. We have some 3s, 3.5s, agreeing with you, Carolina. From my own personal experience of hearing from other businesses, I would say anywhere from a 3.5 to a 4 is typically what I would see people on that scale of the pain point. Depends, I think, on your specific needs, but I'm excited to hear more from Joe about that.
Even for us at WalkerScout, we just added some people to our team. I would say it's a 3. It's a
Finding the
different
right person's
job.
hard.
Yeah, recruiting's hard because a bad hire is going to cost you way more. So
Yeah.
All right, well, let's dive into the landscape and challenges, talk about the unique demands within the industry, specifically related to hiring and retention. I'll hand it
I
over to
hope
you,
you don't
Joe.
mind. I added this slide. If anyone's ever seen me talk before, they've seen a variation of this slide. This is one of my favorite things to look at. Isn't that sad? This is the number of unemployed people per job opening adjusted seasonally for the US. And I want to say this is from the Department of Labor. And that gray area, that's the COVID-19 pandemic. So why it spikes up instantly and then kind of goes down over the course of about 2 years. That was the shutdown, and then we all kind of returned to work. Um, you'll see right now that there's about one person looking for work for every job available in the United States. Of course, this doesn't always, recognize the chronically unemployed. But if someone's chronically unemployed, they're probably not a viable candidate for your business, anyways. But it's tough. It's a lot easier to find people when there's 3, 4, 5 people looking for every job available. So it's kind of a race against time if you want to find the good people in such a small pool. So I guess that's what I always want to show when I show this slide, that right now, for the last 5 years, the market has been incredibly competitive, especially as it relates to like entry-level positions, like a pet sitting job where someone without prior, like a degree or certification, could be considered for the work.
Wow, that's really interesting to see, especially broken out over time there.
Yeah, it was tough before the pandemic, and I think we could talk about the attitudes of candidates later, but you'll see even like a few years ago, it was incredibly tight. Um, Tighter than it's ever really been in the history that I've been in the industry, but it's still very competitive. Yeah, we lose people all the time because we're needing time to be selective or waiting for more people to interview, more options to show up. And then we might have a client decide, oh, I want to choose candidate B, only to discover that candidate B accepted a job 2 days ago. So it's very tight. Um, this is another thing I like to kind of explore. This is a year-to-year change with wages, hourly earnings. So we're not going to discuss wages in great detail today, and wage is not everything. There's a lot of variables why someone may apply and may move forward at your business. But when you look at how much wages have changed year on year, I would hope that the pet care services, that your pet care service is charging more appropriately. You're increasing your pricing because wage growth never really stops. Even in 2010, when we're dealing with kind of the aftermath of the mortgage crisis, you could see that wage growth was still around 2% year on year. Right now, it's around 4% year on year. So we need to kind of constantly be paying our staff that are here with us more money, and we need to offer more competitive wages to new applicants looking to work at our business. So just make sure that your pricing is going to reflect that wage growth is constant, and in this case, at a pretty high rate, around 4%. I hope that makes sense. This is a challenge in particular that we're seeing with younger candidates and with pet sitting. This is from Handshake. Handshake is a website that is marketed specifically to the Gen Z job seeker. It's not necessarily a website that we use right now as part of our job board mix and how we diversify our candidate sources, but they do have some interesting information on there. And really what this is telling me is that Gen Z wants flexible scheduling. I mean, remember, some of these people finished high school and college during a pandemic, doing the whole thing remotely. So they enjoy working from home, they enjoy setting their own schedules, they enjoy independence, and it's harder to get young people to commit to early morning visits, to late evening visits, to weekends and holidays. This isn't just a pet sitting thing. We work with a lot of dog daycares. Dog daycares are typically open 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it is much harder to staff for those early morning, late evening, and weekend holiday shifts. So, as you're building out your schedules and building out your jobs, think about, do I really need a staff member to work every possible holiday? Or is there a system I could develop to split up the holidays? Or do you need to really have someone have availability, let's say every weekend or one day per weekend? The companies that we recruit for that break up some of those responsibilities, they tend to have better people applying, and they're able to fill their roles faster because they're asking less of the candidates. If you give people many barriers of entry, like in this case, where let's say hypothetically we're asking for total availability on all holidays, that is going to stop some people from applying. Or even worse, people will apply and then they're not being honest with you or themselves about their holiday availability. So just keep in mind that Gen Z really wants to have some level of control over when they're working.
Carolina, I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the biggest staffing challenges that you're facing today with Tails and Trails?
I would agree with the scheduling. As Joe said, people really want flexible scheduling, and I would say probably the toughest thing is finding people that want to do this full time. A lot of, walkers that we get applicants, either do some sort of dog training on the side, or because we hire independent contractors, so they will additionally do like their own side gig. So I would say probably the biggest staffing challenges is finding people who want to be full-time, like Monday through Friday, and not just do a few days. Because we do give them that availability to kind of choose their own schedule.
Thanks for sharing that. That's really helpful to understand. I know in a lot of industries, staffing is difficult, and especially when it comes to scheduling. But with this industry, scheduling, I feel like, is one of the number one pain points across the board for people.
Yeah, definitely.
How has the demand for pet care services impacted your hiring needs in recent years, especially as we're reflecting back over the COVID timeframe till now? How has that changed, and what impact has that had?
I think we're hiring so much more, or have been in the past few years, and now it's kind of been on a steady trajectory for the past, I want to say, 2 to 3 years, where we're hiring steadily, every month. We're hiring 1 to 2 new dog walkers. And that's just because the pet care industry is growing so much, right? And, all the COVID puppies as well. That was a thing right after COVID. That was probably where I saw the biggest increase in hiring directly after COVID.
It's hard to find the perfect candidate. We all know that there maybe isn't even the perfect candidate, but you can find some really great people out there. What are some qualities that you look for in handling animals and just a professional that you would be interested in hiring with Tails and Trails?
Yeah. Um, Reliability is probably like the biggest one. And timeliness. So just like little things, like if when we first hire them, if they're late for their interview, or in the first few appointments when we're doing training with them, if they're, showing up late for the appointments. We work within a 2 hour time frame. So even if I would say, yeah, if they're showing up, within the time frame. Qualities you look for. And also being able to take criticism is a big one, because clients can be difficult. You'll have those difficult clients who have something to say about the way their house was left or the way they think that their dog might be reacting strangely after their walk, even if it isn't necessarily something. And those are all things that we always have to bring up with the walker. So that's really big on how they can receive that type of input.
I think that's a really big point too, is being able to take that feedback and kind of grow and learn from it, and
Mhm.
become a more seasoned, maybe better pet care professional.
Yeah, and also just not being affected by it is a big thing. Because you're always going to have those difficult clients, so you just need to be able to run with it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
All right, Joe, I'm curious to hear from you now. What trends are in the job market regarding candidate availability and expectations surrounding that as well?
Yeah, we kind of touched on that, and I'd like to, I guess, expand on it. Um, it is difficult. It seems like in the pet sitting world, most roles are part-time, some roles are full-time, but we're constantly part of kind of like a time management thing for the staff, right? So, we hire a lot of people who are pursuing a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Um, you had mentioned earlier with Tails and Trails, you might have people who are working as dog trainers, or they have another professional obligation. So it is difficult because this kind of goes back to their desire to have flexibility. People have other professional and personal obligations. And I'm not a person that thinks that WAG and Rover are the enemy. I actually think they're a great source of
I
candidates
agree.
who've been through the ringer without any
Yeah.
management support. However, the problem is that it has created a culture where they are under the belief that they really can control their schedule at all times, right? They could decide when they are or are not available. But for a pet sitting business like Tails and Trails, or even more of a dog walking business like Tails and Trails, where it's like an enrichment experience, these clients have expectations that walks are going to take place within a 2 hour period. So there is less flexibility. So there is definitely not a conflict, but there are opposing views on what a candidate's availability might look like, what their expectations are. And all we could really do is educate them in the most positive way about why our service, like a Tails and Trails, why this is better than a WAG, why this is better than a Rover for them, not just the dogs and the clients and the company, but for them, because it's going to provide them consistent earning opportunities. And I also think it's about educating them and motivating them, but doing so in the most positive way. People are very um, they don't want to have it sound like it's you never want to have a job post that sounds like you're going into a place where you're going to be watched like a hawk, or it's not going to be it's going to be maybe be a negative environment with too much oversight. So yeah, I hope that provides insight for you.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you for sharing that, Joe. And I think you hit the nail on the head there as well. And writing a job post that, appeals to someone while kind of communicating what those expectations are, can be a little bit of a challenge too.
In
What
terms
are
of,
some,
please,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I was reading out loud. I was reading.
Well, what are some of the common misconceptions about pet care work that make recruitment difficult?
Yeah, well, it sounds like Tails and Trails is actually what a lot of people are looking for, because it sounds like you guys offer a fun place to work. It's unique. You've got dogs there that are vetted, and there's a lot to dogs that have been assessed professionally by the company, and not just like random dogs, like a WAG dog,
Yeah.
where the assessment is the owner's assessment, right? But I think one of the biggest misconceptions about pet care work is they're not all going to be Tails and Trails. Some people need just part-time help, 10, 15, maybe 20 hours a week. And because of that, you won't be working like an 8 hour shift. And so many people are used to an environment where they go to the store, the factory, the office, and they're there for 8 hours or 6 hours straight, and that's the end of the day. So we have to explain to them that every week, every day in the pet care industry is different because it's truly driven by client demand. We have to educate a lot of candidates that typically these are jobs designed to be part-time, typically supplemental income. And we also have to explain if you're paying per piece, how that works. Not a lot of people have worked as per piece staff members before. They might be used to being paid hourly. There's pros and cons to both systems. And, so there's just kind of going back to the availability thing. You just have to educate them in a professional and positive way and explain it's not just to the company's benefit, it's to your benefit. If you're a hard worker, um, per piece can be great. I have clients that have contractors that pay per piece, and some of those people make significantly higher wages than it would be possible as employees. But you need to have the attitude and the brains to accomplish some of those things. So I think it's a lot about just explaining, hey, this is not a 4 or 6 hour shift at a store. Like you are going to be hustling a little bit as a dog walker, as a pet sitter, because we're always on the move. We're always on to the next visit, right?
But Joe, sorry, quick question. When you say, did you say per piece?
Yeah, so like per walk, like I know a lot
Yeah,
of businesses pay per walk.
that's Tails and Trails. That's how it's a commission based rate, exactly like that. And I actually think that people make more money doing
Oh
that
yeah,
than they would if it was just an hourly rate. Also, because we're a group based service, majority of our clients and services want their dogs to interact with other dogs. So all of our services are group, not all, we do solo care as well, but majority of our services is group based. So that really gives walkers the ability to make much more money than they would at like a WAG or a Rover.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate what you've done, what you've set up there. I've got a client on the Eastern Seaboard. They hire contractors. They pay per piece per walk, and they not everyone there, but they have some people there working 25, 30 hours a week, and some of them are making like 40 to $50,000 a year.
Oh yeah.
um they really have to hustle and
Hmm.
have the brains to manage the
Definitely.
dogs in the group and navigate the city that they're operating in. But yeah, I mean, I have the fortune of working with a dog walking business in Manhattan, and they do small groups, no larger than 3. But if you've got the right dogs and they're in the right location and they're working as contractors, paying per piece, you can make a lot of money there. So yeah, it really
Definitely.
gives people the opportunity to have some control over their earnings, which I think a lot of young people appreciate, especially.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you both for sharing your perspectives there. Um, this is definitely something that applies to a lot of pet care businesses, but the seasonality of care, how does the seasonal nature of some pet care services affect some of those staffing strategies?
So I'll have full disclosure here. Most of our clients only hire permanent positions. We rarely ever hire seasonal people just because the time involved with onboarding them is very expensive. There's a value to someone's knowledge of dogs after they've been with the company for 6 months or for 2 years or something. But I think it's really about preparing them. Hey, come January, we might be very quiet. Some businesses are busy in January. Some businesses are quiet. So I guess you should just know your trends, and at the same time, kind of educate them and let them know, if it's a part-time job, and there's those variables, give them the knowledge that that's going to be on the horizon. And then that way, if there's extra supplemental learning opportunities, house sits or whatever it might be, those pet sitters might want to seize on those opportunities because maybe the schedules are going to be lighter for the next month or so. I think a lot of it has to do with education because pet sitting is very different compared to most traditional job paths and most traditional like work environments. So it's really about educating them as they work their way through the application process and the interview process.
Yeah, I love what you said there about just educating and communicating what that is to the applicants so they know what to expect when it comes to, like you said, the slower times in January, whatever it might be for your business. And to know what that seasonality looks like in your business, you have to know your trends. So quick plug for Pet Pocketbook, if I will. In Pet Pocketbook in your reporting dashboard, it can help to identify some of those trends so you can understand when some of your busier seasons are, or maybe when it's a little bit slower. So not only to help you understand when you might need to offer more hours for your team to work, but during those slower times as well, maybe you want to do training courses to help engage your employees and offer them additional resources for learning. And that leads to better employee retention too. So you can look at it both ways, and it's really helpful to understand what your trends look like. So thank you for mentioning that, Joe.
Thank you for mentioning that about Pet Pocketbook.
Of course. I'll hand it over to you, Joe.
Sure. I think with this slide, well, actually the next slide, briefly, I guess we'll talk about attracting top talent and what that looks like. People often ask us like, oh, where do you guys find people? Because obviously if you're not finding people, WalkerScout wouldn't exist. So we do find people. There's no secret sauce. WalkerScout's really just built on a lot of hard work. So if you want to move to the next slide, I'll share our secret sauce. This is where most of our candidates are sourced from. This is ranked. I will admit it does drop off a cliff once you get to number 5. So the vast majority of our candidates are sourced from our clients' Indeed accounts with sponsored listings. Most of the sponsorships, like $5 to $10 a day, running for a 2-week period. We assess from there where we are with the search before we decide to make an additional investment, an increased investment, or stop investment. Some clients that don't have a tight timeline to hire, or maybe they have a tighter budget to work with, we might make a listing on Indeed that's organic or free. That's going to have significantly less visibility, but it still might be able to yield you some results. If you've got a good client career page with good SEO for your website, that can attract not just people, but good people. We find that some of the strongest candidates tend to actually visit the business website. We offer a website that syndicates to Google Careers, WalkerScout Jobs. So that's been a nice little boost for us and our clients. I wish referrals were more common. Referrals are a free source of, in many cases, they're a free source of some of the most motivated and intelligent candidates. If you need more referrals, you could, in theory, offer like a bonus or a credit or a discount to both staff and clients to kind of spread the word that you're hiring. After that, this very much represents a smaller group. Social media, Google Careers. We have some older accounts on Jazz HR. Jazz HR is a great applicant tracking service. If you've never used an ATS before, Jazz HR is a great starting off point for that. And the thing about those sources is that they're just not going to have the visibility of an Indeed. Jazz HR also works with Indeed, so it's a great tool for that. I wish all of my clients, like my daycare clients, they occasionally will indulge me. We'll put up a sign like at their physical location. That's a great source of local candidates, people that aren't going to be driving from 90 minutes away for a part-time job. Maybe they're coming from 20 minutes away for a part-time job. But that's where most of our candidates come from. The little asterisk there too, that is going to be, we'll touch on this in a few moments, but if you want to go to the next slide, I think it's possibly there. Those are based on the perceptions of your business. So in short, websites like Glassdoor, Indeed, referrals, all of it's built off your ability to have a positive environment for your staff, because staff reviews will speak directly to those job seekers, and those reviews carry weight. They're going to share opinions, they're going to share wage and benefit information. Some of them will talk about the interview process and the scores of your reviews. Keep in mind, these are not client reviews, customer reviews. These are reviews from your staff. They will be visibly present, publicly available to other job seekers. I think if you go to the next slide, I've got a short video here, and this is the Indeed doom scroll. This is from my laptop. I made like a little screen recording, and you can see some of these businesses have a 5-star, a 3.6. I think I was searching for a kennel role near my house, and these were some of the results that popped up. Ironically, or strangely enough, Indeed is mixing restaurant work in with kennel work. There's also some veterinary work, but you can see some of these businesses have vastly different scores. So you should probably be aware of what your Glassdoor score is, but more importantly, your Indeed score. And if you do have fewer scores, there is a way to kind of resolve part of that. Look at that. One business has a 1-star score, And you can see that they're also paying less compared to other businesses in this list. So it's going to be significantly harder for that company to attract high quality individuals. I guess we can probably go to the next slide. One of the best places to kind of stack your good scores and get new scores, because you can only squash the old ones, you can't get rid of them. So perform exit interviews, understand why people leave, try to identify trends to limit the turnover rate. And this is your opportunity to remind people as they leave, if they were high performing people, tell them, hey, I'm happy to pay you a referral bonus even if you're not here anymore. Tell your smart friends about us, you know. And then at the same time, you could prompt people who are no longer part of the team or people who are leaving the team to give you a review on Indeed. You don't have to ask them for a positive review. You probably know if they're going to give you a positive review or negative review. So just, you know, ask the people that you're confident in to give you a positive review. Ask them for that review on Indeed. It only takes a few minutes. And just explain this is going to help you source more people like them and how much of an impact they made on your business. The reason why I don't normally recommend asking for those reviews for a current staff member, because if something happens to your relationship, let's say payroll gets screwed up and they don't get paid for an extra week, now that person could potentially have a negative perception of your business, and you don't want to have them put up a negative review on Indeed or Glassdoor. So by asking people who are no longer part of the team or about to leave, you kind of ensure what that score and what that review is going to look like. I also have a few brief notes about competitive wages. Again, we're not going to discuss wage in great detail, but the next slide is going to show a few very small points about this. You basically will have fewer people view the post if you pay less than your competition on those doom scrolling, Indeed search results. So fewer people will view the post, fewer people will apply to the post. You're definitely going to be reducing the number of high quality individuals that are going to be interested in your opportunity. Generally, this is going to cause the whole thing to move slower. And if you pay less, there's always the risk that someone is going to leave the company for a job that pays a higher rate. They might continue searching even after they've joined the team. There's one more slide I want to show you at the moment, and that's part about the application process. As you build this whole thing out, I recommend always to have a concise, informative, welcoming, engaging job post, 300 to 400 words really at most for an entry-level position. If it's a really tricky thing, like I'm not gonna lie, Tails and Trails sounds like an awesome place to work, but that's not for a novice. You probably want to have some level of experience or volunteer experience at minimum to be successful at Tails and Trails. So you want to maybe have a 500-word job post because there's some additional skills that will probably have to be discussed in the job post. But you want to have it be concise and welcoming. You want to have the application process be mobile friendly, very easy. You want to avoid homework with unnecessary emails, no secret words. I know sometimes clients like to put down, mention Buttercup in your resume or something. And just so they know you've read the whole application, the whole job post. Like don't ask for any secret code words or any extra work. You really want to make it as convenient and easy as possible for people to apply and interview, because you want to have as many options available to you as possible as you kind of work your way through this. So those are some brief notes. I know we kind of cruised through those quickly, but I want to touch on all those things over the course of our talk today.
And everyone, just a friendly reminder, if you do have questions for Joe, feel free to use the chat function of Zoom here and we'll get to your questions.
Or just play this back at half speed later on.
Joe, asking you a couple questions now. Can you share some best practices for interviewing candidates to access their passion, reliability, and problem-solving skills for a pet care role?
Sure. In short, I always like to have structured interviews. It's going to benefit you to ask the candidates the same questions across the board. If you're asking everyone different questions, it's going to be really difficult to compare and contrast the quality of the candidates. Um, a lot of people are not going to be coming in with a great level of knowledge or experience to these types of roles. Obviously, Tails and Trails is a little bit different because you guys are doing a little bit more complex work. But I like to see how someone's attitude and prior work experiences or skills, how it's going to relate to the job. So like a lifeguard is someone who's very aware, could follow safety protocols. That might make a great dog daycare attendant. Someone who maybe worked as a mail carrier could be a great dog walker. I try to see how prior experiences could help them be successful in this position. At the same time, just have it be, I like to have that first interview where there's no right or wrong questions, there's no hypotheticals. let's just talk about you. We want to learn about you as a professional and kind of figure out how your professional goals and where you are with your career, how that fits into what we're trying to accomplish for our clients' pets. So those are some of my insights as it relates to interviewing candidates.
Thanks for sharing that, Joe. I feel like getting people to open up in that first stage is really important too, so you can get a sense of if they're a really good, cultural add for your team too.
Yeah, it could also, in very briefly, if you're ever worried about someone's attitude and their reliability, you could always check references. Just make sure that the questions you're asking for references are compliant with your state. You can verify work history. Remember how to verify work history? There's only three questions you could ask to verify work history: their job title, period of employment, eligibility for rehire. You can't ask the former employer if they were a good employee or a bad employee. And there's also some really cool assessments, like there's the steering group. They have a thing called Integrity First. It's $15. It's a little survey someone finishes on the website, and it actually gives you a report on if this person's going to be a risk for, tardiness, professionalism, even like drug abuse or alcohol abuse at work. So there's all sorts of little things you could do beyond the questions to assure that someone's a safe addition to your team. And as far as an online presence goes, when you're recruiting, it's important to have not just a website, but maybe Instagram, Facebook. If you don't have a website, for the cost of $50 to $100, get the most basic website you could possibly can. That way you can kind of graduate out of being stuck just limited to Instagram or Facebook. If you're looking to hire, they really want to see that you've made the investment in your own business to have a formal website. So the most competitive, the best candidates, they're going to do their research on your business before they apply or before they interview. So I can't recommend enough. It's important to have a presence. It doesn't have to be a very active Instagram, a very active Facebook. I don't want you to sink, hours upon hours every week in preparation for that one candidate. It's going to really check you guys out. But having a good website, I think, can make a big difference, not just attracting good candidates, but probably good leads too. You want to have confidence in that business that they're investing in their business.
Yeah, aside from the information that you share with them about the business itself, they want to be able to explore and learn more about their own. So I can definitely see how that good or strong online presence, specifically a website, would be helpful for that. Carolina, having you hop in now, what's been your most successful recruitment strategy and why do you think it has worked for you? So thinking about when you're bringing on new team members, what's
Yeah.
the most successful tactic that you
I'm just
use when
thinking
hiring?
through when I do, an Indeed post over over experience, like what has been the most successful. Honestly, I would say a combination of compensation and telling people that they have a flexible schedule because they're independent contractors. Because you independent contractors can be looked at, people could argue like, oh, well, there's no benefits with it. So you kind of have to play to the side of, well, you have your own flexible schedule that you can create and you're able to make a higher income because you're on a commission based rather than an hourly based rate. And you also can write off a lot of your expenses being a dog walker. So I would say, yeah, that would be
Thank
my
you. Yeah, that's really interesting to share. How do you screen for genuine empathy, annual empathy specifically, and a strong work ethic? I know that's really important as a dog walker and pet care professional. So how do you kind of screen for that during the hiring
Yeah.
process?
Honestly, that would be probably done during our working interview. I don't conduct the working interviews. I have my coordinator from each location do the working interview. And the person that I have as a coordinator, they've been with me, all my coordinators have been with me for a while, so it's kind of been a process like doing working interviews. That's something that they've got they're well equipped at this point. So yeah, I would say through working interviews and also through references. As Joe mentioned references. I do think that references are key. You can definitely get like some bogus references, but you can tell usually when a reference is real or not. And if like if a candidate is giving, you want a candidate that's giving references from a previous job, not like their aunt or some neighbor that they dog sat for, like 2 years ago. You want references that are from previous jobs, and you want to speak most particularly like a manager or a supervisor or something like that. And if the person that you speak to, can like say good things about that person, that for me is usually like a pretty good way ensuring that I'll hire them.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that working interview to just explain what happens during that portion of the interview process?
Yeah. So for the working interview, we have the candidate. So first, like I do a phone screening with them, basically a phone interview, to see if they are equipped for the role and worth doing the working interview. Um, and then they essentially meet up with whoever our coordinator is for the location that they are interviewing for, and the coordinator will have them basically like throw them into the job, have them handle all the dogs that the coordinator is handling. And the coordinators are all very experienced. They're all trainers, dog trainers on top of being dog walkers. They've all been with Tails and Trails for a while. If they haven't been with Tails and Trails for a while, I only have one that's been with me that is relatively new, but she has a lot of previous experience, like came to me from a training facility. So anyways, what I'm saying is that they're much more experienced than my typical dog walker. So if they can put this candidate in a situation where, they're handling a bunch of dogs and in like a bit more of an advanced situation, and they feel that they are well equipped and able to handle it, then I would say that's another good way of knowing that they're a good applicant or good fit.
Definitely. I can see how your feedback from your coordinators would be really important during that interview
Mhm.
process. Have you found success with some of the more unconventional recruitment methods, such as referrals or internships? I know specifically with training, sometimes there's internships that are available. So I'm curious to hear if there's anything that has worked well for Tails and Trails.
Yeah, I've had good success with referrals. Like Joe said, a referral is the best thing that you can get because it's free. And it also is essentially like it's a shoo-in that the person is most likely legitimate and going to be reliable and a good fit, all the things that you want, right? Because most likely the person that is suggesting them is, someone that you think has been a good dog walker for you or a good employee for you. So that's always like the best way. Internships are no, not for me. Um,
Sure. I
just because it's like it's kind of not something you can teach to a degree. Um, at least not in it's a very fast-paced job. So yeah, I have done some internships because I thought, it would be a great way to give back and like whatnot, but it has been a fail when I've tried it. So I no longer do those.
Sure. I know with referrals that kind of a similar thing happens with, new client referrals too. Some of the best clients that you can get are from a referral
Mhm.
from another client, and that same thing happens when it comes to bringing on new team members too, because people want to refer people who will thrive in that environment, whether it's a client or someone for the team. I think
Definitely,
referrals are underappreciated sometimes through, new clients or when it comes to building the team.
definitely.
All right. We're going to use the chat function for this for my fail of a Zoom poll, and I apologize for that. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the easiest and 5 being the hardest, how hard is it to retain your staff? So keeping your staff around.
Wait, sorry. 5 is the hardest.
5 is
Five
the
is the
hardest.
Five, I think, I mean, think it's hard to, there's a lot of turnover in dog walking. Everyone's saying 1 or 2, but I don't know. I think it's hard to keep people around. I don't have much. I have a lot of long-term walkers, but I guess because we are so large, we have about 35 walkers. We do see turnover. So
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you're gonna have turnover at 35. Congratulations on that team.
thanks.
yeah, I think one of the harder things in pet care is, a lot of people will, I mean, not necessarily for tails and trails, it doesn't apply to every single business, but because of the nature of pet care, a lot of people I think misjudge it, and they come into this industry with some preconceived notions of how long they might think they want to stick around. And depending on, the team that you bring on, you might have some people that love this and want to be around long term. And that's the ideal employee, ideal team member to have. And then there are some other people who want to use this as more of a stepping stone or not really sure where they want to go in the future. So it can be an industry where we experience higher turnover. So it's really interesting to see how it affects and impacts each business differently. Okay, let's talk about nurturing your team with retention and growth and how you can keep valuable team members engaged, motivated, and like I said, committed long term. Julia in the chat has said, reaching out to hire new dog walkers is more difficult than keeping good people. We treat them like family, and I think that makes a difference. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with new clients too, is like bringing on new clients is harder than it is going to be to keep some of your long-term clients around. It's always more expensive too. Like Joe was talking about that too, like the cost of a new hire it's a lot. So you want to make sure that you're fostering those relationships among your team too, to make sure that everyone is staying engaged and committed long term, not only from a strength of your team perspective, but also from the costs associated with bringing on new team members too.
I see a slide here that I think I know a little bit about. I'd like to briefly touch, if I may, just on positive environments and how that can impact our recruiting. I believe positivity starts with that professional onboarding phase. If someone gets the impression that they're the first person you've ever hired, that might set off a red flag or an alarm bell for them. Training programs and onboarding programs, that's really critical to a new staff member being successful, especially if you're dealing with complex stuff. So if you're working with cats and medications, if you have them set up as employees, definitely take advantage of that training opportunity. And I think Carolina had mentioned the shadow walk, the working interview. That's a great way for someone to really figure out, not only are they going to be successful, but do they want to be here? Like, is this how they want to spend the next maybe 1 to 2 years of their life, hopefully minimum? Working outside, working with groups of dogs, working independently. You really want to set up a positive setting to speed up that recruiting, because referrals are going to come naturally, hopefully, if everyone's enjoying their work there. Those positive settings reduce your recruiting costs because you're recruiting at a faster rate. And if you're working in a positive environment, you're happy to be there, so productivity is going to go up. I think we've all had a job at some point where we didn't really want to be there, and that's probably not the place where we did our best work. So if you want to go, if you actually look forward to work, you're probably going to do a great job there too. There's also less burnout. You never want to have a company culture where the company culture is everyone's new, right? There is no culture if everyone there is a recent hire. So by having lower, new hires and having longer tenures, you're going to improve the company culture because you're going to have less people burning out. You're probably putting out less fires too. New people really have more struggles than a senior staff member.
I will say
So
too, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
I never stop talking, so please go ahead.
I'm the same way. I wanted to quickly just mention when I first connected with you, Carolina, I was so impressed by your ability to kind of foster such a friendly, hardworking environment, and really just thoroughly impressed with the environment that you have created among your team and the leadership of each of those locations. I know that you're a very tight-knit community and you've done your best to
thank
really
you.
support
We're
them.
very tight knit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that shows in the way that you all speak about one another. And it's really cool to see that. And, you can just see that, this job isn't just a job to them, but it's really something that they feel proud of and to be a part of. And I think that's such a key, important part of finding the right team member is they want to be proud of the work and that they're here for.
Definitely.
Joe, you hit on this with your first bullet point on this slide here, but the process of bringing on new team members, you want that through the onboarding process with your team members to be sleek as well. When we think about the new client onboarding process, that represents your brand. That's the first impression that your clients have of your brand, and the same thing goes for your team too. So you want that experience to be a really positive experience for them too. So you're putting your best foot forward and they're putting their best foot forward too.
Absolutely. And I had not to plug Pet Pocketbook, but like when you're onboarding somebody, the last thing you probably want to tell someone in the onboarding process, oh, we're going to manage all of our client information in Google Drive. We're going to manage all of our client visits in a Google Calendar, and we're going to, have everyone's going to pay through Zelle. No, just like have a platform like Pet
Mhm.
Pocketbook. That's going to really improve. It's two things. It's going to make the job easier. I think most people will recognize that, but it's also just an attitude. It's, hey, we're making this investment of $25 a month to have a great platform like Pet Pocketbook, and it's going to support clients, the dogs, and the staff, and everyone's going to kind of work in harmony. So yeah, having a program like Pet Pocketbook is going to make a big difference to that first week on the job.
I agree with Joe. I honestly, I should have, when you asked me, that would have been one of the things I would have said, honestly. In what helps, like with, I'm not sure exactly what the question was, but what helps with new hires, and that is really key. Having everything in one place. I think it would just be a disaster if it was any other. I can't imagine what it would be like if, as you were saying, Joe, if it was like everything was on Google Drive or in all different places. It really makes a huge difference with hiring people when you can show someone like in the shadowing, we also show them how to use Pet Pocketbook. And that shows them everything from where their payroll is to anything about the client's information to how they can manage their own schedule and arrange it. So it really, yeah, covers everything for them.
Yeah.
Thank you both for mentioning that.
Well, it's also like, I'm gonna this is kind of a silly analogy, but like, has anyone ever like gotten a new phone, like you're peeling off the sticker and like everything's clean and fresh? Not to like, make a bunch of flowers here, but I think Pet Pocketbook is the most attractive of all the pet care scheduling platforms. I think it's like one of the easiest ones to navigate. I've used four of the big ones, including Pet Pocketbook, and I just feel like Pet Pocketbook is that's like, the nicest one on the eyes. If you're gonna stare at that little screen for, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour a day, at least make it an attractive screen. So it's nice. Pet Pocketbook has like that feel to me if I was a new user of like peeling off the sticker. It's so shiny and nice. So it's nice that it's an attractive platform. It's not like janky and it's not missing updates. It's being updated consistently. You guys had mentioned you guys just got the app updated or something. So it makes a difference, right? You're not telling someone to log in and log into an app that's like, last was updated 3 years ago.
Yes, thank you. I love that analogy of peeling the new sticker off your phone. We want your team to be excited about using the app too. New tech can be fun, so getting them involved and active in Pet Pocketbook can be a really fun first step for those people to kind of get their bearings in their new role. Oh, sorry, I'm driving slow over here on the slides.
No worries. I was going to mention briefly some non-wage based advantages. I mean, one of these is monetary based. Benefits, bonuses. Again, we could actually decide if we want to pay our staff or to credit our clients when they refer us to not just new leads, but more importantly to staff members. You could have company awards, certifications, memberships. I have some clients that are contracting based, and what they do is they basically provide probably a rate increase, or they might offer some kind of like one-time bonus when someone takes the initiative on their own without being required to do so to maybe get a certification in animal handling, or like they're making effort on their own to improve their skill sets outside of work, and then the company acknowledges that in different ways. Carolina had mentioned that many of her like team leaders have been there for a long time, so opportunities to learn, develop a career, build their skill sets. I mean, I worked at a dog walking business for 11 years. And in the 11 years I was there, I was a manager for about 8 or 8.5 of them. The whole time I was chasing the carrot. It was the best boss I've ever had in my life. And he always had one more thing for me to learn, one more thing for me to do. I was always challenged there. And having the carrot is a big deal. Giving people the chance to learn and grow is a really big deal. So kudos to Carolina on developing her team that way internally. You could also have work-life balance. We've talked about how people enjoy flexibility. We've talked about that a couple of times today. So, for some people that might be the ability to work fewer hours. For some people that might be the ability to control when they work. But these are all different things we can explore. That just doesn't mean we're paying more per hour or paying more per dog. There's different ways you can kind of break this down.
Yeah, and I think just plain old recognition can go a long way too. Dropping a note in your Slack channel and just saying, "Hey Joe, nice job. Hey Carolina, I love the way you wrote that report card." Just fun things like that can be awesome. And it's pet care. It can be really fun. And you're working with adorable, fun animals every single day. So being able to spotlight your team as they're helping to care for them can be a really fun way to get your team involved by recognition as well.
We do a walker of the month, where each month we pick a different walker from any of the 3 locations. And then we spotlight them on Instagram and Facebook. We ask for client referrals, or I guess not really referrals, client like accolades of the walker. And the walker does like a little short bio of what they love about dog walking or being with dogs, and anything they really want to say, right, about their experience. And then we give them a $250 Airbnb gift card, so they can like get away. So that's like what we do for, I don't know, like what would be the company awards or something like that. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, we also do like a steps challenge. So you're obviously walking a lot with this industry. So we'll have walkers. They will track their steps for the week, and then whoever had the most steps, will give them an Amazon gift card. And it kind of like gets everyone on Slack to like send what their steps were for the week. We do that every so often too. So I think
That's
stuff like
really
that is
cool.
important. Yeah.
I've never heard of that. That's so cool. That's the coolest thing I've heard in a long time.
I don't come up with them, to be honest with you, all these. I have someone, so like I'm constantly trying to find other opportunities for my walkers, or walkers that want to be more than just dog walkers, want to be more involved, or want to grow within. We're a small business, so like it's not super easy to find growth, but like I'm always trying to grow and find more opportunities for people. But so we have, like, for instance, we have a designated social media person, and they're always coming up with like these types of different ideas and challenges for people. So
I think
yeah,
you're selling yourself short saying you don't have a lot of opportunity for growth, because I think you've built an amazing team and they all
thank
bear a
you.
lot of responsibility. And like Joe said, you're giving them that carrot, that opportunity to grow, to be challenged, to work more. So don't sell yourself short.
I appreciate that.
All right. Once you've hired great staff, Carolina, what are some of the key elements of your
Yeah.
onboarding process to make sure they're feeling supported?
So I do the onboarding. Once we hire someone, I'll just run down the list. We set them up with, a Tails and Trails email. We get them on Pet Pocketbook. We get them in Slack. And then we get them in the channels in Slack. Like we have a channel for each location. And we get them all. So for each location, we have a storage locker, where we keep all supplies and equipment. So everything from like extra leashes, biothin long leads, poop bags, treats, since you're an independent contractor, you are using your own cars, so we supply you with like all the equipment that you would need to keep your car safe and clean, you know, as clean as possible, with having a bunch of dogs in your car. So like seat covers, dog seat belts, gates for the car, all of that stuff we supply to each new walker. Usually like we have, I mean, I do end up obviously having to buy some equipment with each new walker, but we keep a lot in the storage unit so that if like someone has left or we have extras, everything is in there for people to get. So like the stuff that we keep on a regular basis that people would need regularly is like the poop bags, the treats, the leashes, um we use tick spray, but it's not a tick spray. I can't remember the Nature's Miracle, maybe it's called. It's like a all natural repellent. So we supply that with everyone. So sorry, I'm going on, I'm losing my train of thought. But so that we do all the supplies, so we send them all the supplies they need. And then we also we have a Google Drive for a Walker reference guidebook, and that just has like everything that you could possibly imagine that you would need to know about how to do this job and like how to handle a dog. Like if you're um if you're not sure if the dog has proper recall, which I mean, we hope that we're hiring someone that can tell if a dog has proper recall, but regardless, like we have dumbed it down where there's like every single item with like a video or a checklist, a Google Doc or whatever, all in the reference book in Google Drive that we share with for every new walker. So yeah.
Sounds like they have a lot of resources to make sure they're set up for success, from physical things that they would need to the knowledge to do the job
Yeah.
so that
And
they're
I
always
think,
feeling supported.
and we also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but we have them shadow, we have them do training for a week typically, for when they've first been hired. So their first week is they shadow a different walker, typically like 1 to 4, depending on the location, different walkers so that they can like get the experience from that particular walker. Because each, you know, walker has like a different way of doing things to a degree. And they can see like how the dogs are handled and just get some pointers. So I would say like between all of those, that's kind of how we go about doing it.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
What initiatives do you have in place to foster a positive and supportive work environment for your team? I know we touched on that a little bit already, but if you had to kind of summarize that, what would you say?
Um, well, I
I
guess like I had mentioned the, you know, the things that we do like the Walker of the Month and little contests and stuff. I think we probably started maybe like 2 years ago using Slack, which has been a huge help to switch over to Slack. Because you know it creates like a team experience where people can like send photos in group chats, or you know there's group chats where people can send photos and updates throughout the day. They can also like we use it for like for each location, like if someone, a walker is sick or going to be going on vacation, they'll message in that group chat, does anyone want to cover these walks for me? And people are so quick to respond and say, I'll take them, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's also how like we ask if when we get an in-home sitting or a boarding request, if there's certain walkers who will do in-home sitting and certain walkers who will do boarding, some walkers that do both, but usually it's one or the other. And then we have them in that particular chat, and the coordinator will ask like, who wants to take this in-home sitting? And whoever responds, we just do it based on whoever replies first, because otherwise it's not really fair. Typically that's, yeah. Anyways, so does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely. Yes. And I think Slack is a great tool for communication. We actually use it internally here at Pet Pocketbook.
It's great.
Um, there's so much that
Because
you
it
can do
also
with
gives
it.
you like a work-life balance. Like we used to just use regular text message, and then you have people messaging you at like 11 o'clock at night. And I am one of those people that messages people at 11 o'clock at night because I also have an 18-month-old. So like sometimes I'm not getting, well, most nights I'm not getting back to my email until 7 or 8 p.m. at night. And then I'm like going through and sending messages at 11 or midnight. So like thankfully everyone can have themselves on mute so they're not like getting blown up from me off hours. So it's really helpful.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yes, I know that helps a lot too with work-life balance, having those channels that are a little bit more passive while still being engaging so that your team can log on and be present when they want to be and, turn that off when they don't want to have, it's not like a text message exactly like you said, so they can kind of look at it when they're ready to.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Professional development and growth opportunities for your staff.
I mean, I think that it's kind of, I see it's see who is interested, or I guess I kind of wait to see like who approaches me that is looking like they're looking for more opportunity within, or if they seem like they have the ability to take on more. I'm personally always looking to expand and grow my business. It's, my obsession. So I'm always looking for people to help me to do that. So, I'm always like wanting to find someone new that can help me with new tasks and is wanting to be paid to take on more roles. That doesn't really answer your question, but I don't really know.
No, I think that's a great
Yeah.
answer. I think part of it is waiting to see who's ready for that next step. So I think it's important that, you let some people come to you and also look for those people who are ready for that professional development.
Yeah, and it's also, when you want to scale and grow, there's only so much that you can do yourself. So you have to kind of look out for those people that you feel are capable to take on more opportunities for you and that want to, because it's a win-win for both of you, right?
Absolutely. It's also something to be said about not everyone can be a team lead or a manager. You need some of those people to be doing the actual dog walking. So
Mhm.
it's good to have people that are willing to step up, and also, you still need the people to do the bulk of the work.
Um,
Um, sorry.
no, it's okay. I was just going to respond. So as I mentioned, then we do, the contests and whatnot and Walker of the Month. We also do like each location has its own car wash or like detail place that we have a relationship with, where like they can go on a monthly basis and get their cars cleaned. um
That's an amazing perk for a dog
yeah, I
walker.
mean, because there aren't like benefits like healthcare benefits, right? You're an independent contractor. So that we also have like our own accountant, or that like specializes in dog walking, that we refer all of our independent contractors to. I'm trying to think of what else there is. I know there are other things, but that's all I'm coming up with right now.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
All right, Joe, what are the top reasons pet care professionals leave their jobs, and how can businesses proactively address these?
Well, to be honest, I'd rather have Carolina answer all my questions too, because she did such a nice job. But I guess I'll try my best to fill in here. Um, we talked briefly about those exit interviews. I think exit interviews will help you figure out what's going on with the team. Just like over the last 6 months from the exit interviews that we've performed here for our clients, it could be anything. It could be a change that you could not control, like someone's leaving the city or leaving that area, and because of this move, for whatever reason, obviously they can't continue working with you. Um, in some cases, if you hire younger people, it could be that they've now obtained some kind of career level position with the degree that they have. Um, so those are some reasons that may be beyond your control. Things that are in your control could be complications with the schedule. Maybe they have a higher cost of living and they don't see how it's viable for them to continue at this work at this rate of pay. It also could be things like trouble with a manager or trouble with a client. They might be a person who doesn't speak up. So you don't want to wait just for the exit interviews. If you can, try to set up some kind of like performance review or just kind of a check-in, because you might be able to stop these problems from becoming bigger problems if you're aware of them sooner. But I mean, I'm thinking of a client right now, and we had multiple people leave because even though they had a manager that was very professional and polite to the owners, we kind of discovered later on that the manager was more of a rule follower than the owners, like to the point that it was a suffocating environment where there's a lot of micromanaging going on. And even though this person's a very capable dog professional, they weren't necessarily the best person to give feedback. Sounds like Carolina puts a lot of time and effort into the feedback that she provides. How people perceive feedback and how they can grow from that is really important. In some cases, unfortunately, people give feedback in such a harsh way that even if they want to improve, they don't want to do it there. So yeah, those are some things we could do to prevent and limit turnover. Carolina mentioned some great perks and benefits, from winning contests to, getting supplies, free car washes. That's super cool. I've never heard of that before, to be honest with you. That's a pretty good one. Where we used to work, there would be like, we would hand out Cubs baseball tickets when I was managing the dog walking business in Chicago. So we had season tickets to the Cubs, and we would basically make sure that every member of the staff had an opportunity to take, themselves and a friend or whoever to the game. We would do company events, like we'd go out bowling, or, we'd go out to the Renaissance Fair. So there's things you could do to just have people know that they're valued and we appreciate them. And of course, there's always the business that enables clients to provide gratuity. So, we don't want to have clients feel like they have to provide gratuity. We always want to make sure that we're paying our staff a competitive wage. But, if we do let clients know that the gratuity is always appreciated, that's another way that the staff member is aware that their efforts are being acknowledged. But of course, the benefit is that the business isn't the one providing that monetary benefit.
That's a really good point.
So in terms of communication strategies and how that could help retain staff, and everything Carolina mentioned about Slack, that's their platform for them to be successful. It's really interesting, the kind of story that she shared about how if someone can't cover a walk, they might mention it in Slack and then people will step up. That is a nearly identical story to a client I have that operates in Manhattan. It's a very large team, just like Carolina's. It's an IC-based team. Everyone's got this New York hustle to them. And if someone's sick, if someone can't make it, if something's going on, and they just can't get to their walks next week or whenever it's taking place, the amount of people that step up there that want to help the team, want to help the dogs, want to help the company, and of course they're compensated very competitively to do that. Those are all little ways you can make sure that team, because dog walking and pet sitting is kind of, I don't want to say it's lonely, but like 95% of the time you're working with, it's you and a dog.
Yeah.
There's not another human there. So incorporating a platform like Slack is a great way for people to connect. We used to have a team, when I resigned, we had a team of about 45 people. I think they've got way more than 45 people now in Chicago. But we always used to joke, we could have two dog walkers from the same company walk by each other in the street near downtown Chicago, and they may not even know that they both work for the same dog walking company. That's how dense our service area was. That's how big our team was. So when I was working there, Slack was not the tool that it is now for pet care companies. So it's great to see people do things like that outside of, team events and stuff like that.
Awesome. Carolina, I know that you have a hard stop here, but I just wanted to thank you so much for participating. If anyone has questions, please feel free to submit them. I will make sure they make their way over to you. Really appreciate what you've brought today and your perspective of what's going on within the industry with hiring and retention. It's been really valuable to have you join us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I can't stay on longer, guys. I have to go pick my daughter up. Yeah, so I apologize, but thank you all. I really enjoyed it.
Thank
Joe,
you so much.
nice meeting you.
Have a great meeting you. I'll talk to you later, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again.
Thank you. All right, let's talk about how important it is to have a clear career path or opportunities for advancement in the retaining talent in this industry. Do you feel like that's important? I'm really curious to hear from your perspective.
Really depends on the business. For someone like Carolina, not to speak for her, but I mean, this is a business that's expanding. They've got multiple locations. She needs to have a lot of bureaucracy and support to keep that growth going. So she's going to probably want to have some level of some path to advance. Where I was working, we went from 5 people to 45 people in the 11 years I was there. And I think my boss knew that I was the kind of person that always wanted a challenge, that always wanted to see big things happen. And I'm going to freely admit I wanted to make more money. So yeah, if you have a business and you're the owner operator and your desire is to hit a certain threshold of, let's say, services performed to hit a certain level of revenue for the year, you're going to need to have some kind of path for your internal team to grow and become managers. It's way cheaper to promote someone internally than it is to hire on the outside market. We didn't really touch about that today because we really were talking about growth for the team in detail. But like I hire a lot of kennel managers for the daycare industry, and it's a pity that they don't always have many options internally just to promote someone at the kennel. They might have to go outside. And when you do that, you have to offer a very competitive wage because now you're competing against people in other industries, right? Because if you're looking for that skill set. So definitely try to nurture your strong people who have good attitudes. And I'm not the smartest dog walker. I was never the best dog walker. I was probably just the most motivated and reliable dog walker. So it doesn't have to also be the smartest person. Like you can probably just find someone who really wants to try hard, which was me, and kind of nurture them and help them grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is industry agnostic, but some of the best employees are the people that you already have. So to be able to promote them is going to keep them happy, but it's also going to have, the effect on the business that you're going to have a really strong team and people that you can rely on consistently. Some of the best people that have stepped into roles that I've worked with have, been in other roles within that company too. And it's really great because they have existing relationships too. They've built that trust. It takes a lot of time to create trust and to have someone be able to step into a management or other role. It's really nice and valuable to have that, and it saves you time from that hiring process too.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a team here of 14 people on staff. 12 of us are recruiters, and there's a bookkeeper, and there's a kind of like a reference check person, like a background check person. But I've got a person here that is smart as a whip, very motivated, very reliable, and they could run circles around me with certain tasks that are performed at WalkerScout. So, find what someone's strengths are and then encourage them and give them an opportunity to kind of grow into that.
That's awesome. All right, let's talk about perks. Joe, you were very, very kind to us here. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about what you do and what the offer is here.
Sure. I like free stuff. I'm going to a free thing in about 25 minutes. I'm going to go see a movie in the park with my daughter. So, the free thing here is that you can post an unlimited number of free job posts on WalkerScoutJobs.com. Again, this is a job post that is designed for our industry, and it also syndicates to Google Careers. You can use a coupon code PetPocketbook 2025, and it should let you post an unlimited number of posts for free for the rest of the calendar year for 2025. And it's nice because if you're servicing multiple areas and you're servicing multiple zips, you can even break it up and maybe instead of listing one job for the whole city, maybe it's 2 or 3 jobs. But yeah, happy to have anybody on there because honestly, with the more traffic that site has in terms of content, the tide that lifts all boats? It's going to help everybody. So typically WalkerScout clients are on there, but we have some non-WalkerScout clients that are on there posting, which is great. Also, I really like Pet Pocketbook. I've always believed in what you guys are working on and what the mission is. I love the concept of an alternative to, what we're doing before. So basically, anyone that's going to be managing their business with Pet Pocketbook, if you become a WalkerScout client, we're more than happy to discount your first hire with us by $200. Pet Pocketbook is not giving me $200 to do this. I just really believe in their mission. And I've kind of learned that when companies are working with vendors that we trust and we know, those companies tend to be successful businesses. And we want to recruit for people who are going to be successful, people that want to invest in their business. And because we're actually only paid when someone joins your team and they're successful there. So we're kind of, I mean, we're a vendor, but we're also like in this in harmony. Our success is your success. So I would really encourage everyone, if they haven't tried out Pet Pocketbook, try out the demo. And if they are a Pet Pocketbook client, that's fantastic. And if you decide to work with WalkerScout, again, we're more than happy to credit the first invoice by $200 to just say thank you for working with a trusted vendor of WalkerScout.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. I'm really excited. I hope some people come over your way. I know you and your team do a fantastic job. So thank you so much for putting together that offer for our community.
Happy to.
Awesome. And with that, I'd love to open it up to questions. If you do have a question for us, feel free to either submit it in the chat or unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. While we wait for questions to come in, if anyone has them, Joe, how long have you been doing recruiting now?
I think 15 years. I started recruiting in a business. I think you know the story. I think I've been in business long enough I could tell the story. I used to recruit for a business called People Scout. Did I ever tell you this story?
No.
It's called People Scout. They're still around. They're a big RPO in Chicago, and I was on the Delta Airlines team. So we would help Delta Airlines with their flight attendants and their baggage handlers, and we would help recruit for that role. And I took all the philosophies of working at People Scout and what I learned in college, and I applied it to the dog walking business I was managing at the same time. And that's how we had a lot of that. That's not the only reason why we were successful there. The owner of that business is like a genius. So that's why we were successful. But after about 10 years of working there, I realized I could probably do what I was doing for that business and replicate it for other companies, and we have success. And 6 years later, thankfully, we've had some success. So yeah, WalkerScout is really just a joke because I used to work for People Scout. And now instead of looking for people, I'm looking for typically dog walkers. So
I love that. That's a really
yeah,
cool story. Very full circle.
yeah, there was a much better, clever name that I had. I don't remember what it was, but WalkerScout was the one that my wife thought was the funniest or whatever. So that's what we didn't think this was a real thing at first. Now 14 people work here. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Joe, I feel like I've learned a lot from both your insight and from Carolina's as well. Thanks for the audience for joining us. We host these quarterly, so you're more than welcome to join our next one. Thank you, Joe, so much for being here today, and especially for that very kind and generous offer. Looking forward to seeing you again in the future.
yeah, definitely. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on. I've always wanted to be on YouTube. So one
Now's
one
your
thing off
chance.
my list. Yeah. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next roundtable.